Hi, Sid Ropp here again. I'm reading from A Simple Explanation of Absolutely Everything. We're up to page 4 now. We're talking about creation. In the Bible, this part is called Genesis. Genesis means the beginning. It says, the concentrated thought of the universal unit of consciousness focused inward on a singular point of limitless potential, enough to seed our universe. Concentration gave rise to toroidal forces that begat energetic waves. Our universe began expanding outward as energy exploded into the torus of space out of the 0-point field at the center. So let's look at the slinky torus again. Okay, grasp this idea. The entire outside surface of the donut, it rolls. And by the way, your slinky will roll too. The whole, see, let's look at this. Let's imagine this little zwip I put here on the outside to hold my slinky together. Watch how, if I roll, that dot rolls up. Oh, where is it? There's the dot rolling. It rolls through the middle and comes back around again. See? You can roll any place on the torus, and it makes all of the torus rotate. I'm not touching the zwips, but you see how they're going around? So now imagine that this is consciousness, or a formula. And imagine that it wants to roll in. Excuse me. Okay, watch the consciousness rolling in towards the center, and as the great largeness of the outside rolls down through the black hole of the funnel, it crunches down. All of this exterior is concentrating as it rolls to the middle. And in the universal unit of consciousness, the universal torus, this is what's called a 0-point field at the middle. It doesn't really take up any space, but it does take up a mathematical point. So, consciousness is rolling all the way on the outside of the donut to be the very middle point. All of the possible points on the outside are going to smash down into a single dot at the center of the torus. That's this 0-point field at the middle of our physical universe. And what I'm suggesting is you take all that consciousness and you crush it down into this tiny little point, and this tiny little point now has amassed all of the consciousness of the whole universe. At this point, it's the whole metaverse because nothing's happened yet. But once you crush consciousness down to a singular point, then it has so much force that energy begins to push out from the point, and instead of going back around on the outside, it pushes into the inside. See where my finger is now? It's inside. So once the consciousness pointed to the middle, it pushed inside, and now consciousness is inside of the torus. This is our universe. It's our universal consciousness algorithm. It is the fractal mother of 10,000 things, as they put it in the Tao Te Ching. It's the thing that makes our universe. So, consciousness is rolling around the outside. This is all formless, undifferentiated metaverse out here, or multiverse, as they like to call it in string theory. Push it down to the center to a 0-point field. Pressure, potential we call it, because what's potential? It means something that's going to happen but hasn't happened yet. When something's all potential and it hasn't happened yet, it's infinite potential. If it's the God's mind, it's infinitely potentialized. It has enough potential to push into the inside, and here now this becomes our physical universe. Here is 3D space and time. So as the Big Bang is occurring, flowing in to space, here's space, and as it's going down through, it is time. So, concentration gave rise to toroidal forces that begat energetic waves. That's what I was showing you on the slinky. Our universe began expanding outward as energy exploded into the torus of space. Now we're inside the donut, and out of the 0-point field at the center of the donut. That's all just paragraph 1, page 5. These pulsations funnel waves of consciousness inward from the universal border, that fractal edge that's wrapped around the inside, that's wrapped around the outside. It pushes the universal, the big God. When you think of God as large and outside of you, that is the embrace of the universal consciousness pushing inward from the boundary of the universal unit of consciousness inward toward creation, which is inside the donut now. And it informs each new unit of consciousness as it emerges from the universal portal of here and now. So that 0-point field at the center of the donut is where here and now is situated. And everything that comes out of that 0-point field into our universal now space and time and matter, they all come out with a little donut on them, with a little donut attached to them, because it's a fractal formula. So everything that comes out of the center of that universal unit of consciousness is also a unit of consciousness that is a fractal replicant of the big giant thing on the outside that people often call God, because it is all of the knowledge and potential of our universe. Everything coming out of the center also has that unit of consciousness attached to it, but it's really, really tiny. Instead of being as large as the universe, it's as small as the smallest particle or subparticle of energy entering our field. In Sanskrit, the word ananda means both energy and joy. Ananda means joy when it refers to people or dogs and cats or whomever, but it means energy when it's referred to physics or chemistry. The simple explanation cosmology suggests that organized consciousness, which is called chit, so organized consciousness is called chit in Sanskrit. We could call it logos, I suppose, in Greek. That chit, that is organized consciousness, combined with ananda, that is joy or energy, and that began kicking out the building blocks of our universe out of the Big Bang. So at the very beginning, when traditional cosmology talks about the Big Bang exploding from a singular point, this is the other side of it that we've been talking about. Where is this Big Bang coming from? What's pushing the singularities out of the center of the field at the instant of creation? It's the limitless potential wrapped around the big size. And by the way, as you know from traditional cosmology, as the Big Bang started filling our universe with time and space, it was a tiny point at the beginning, grew to about grapefruit size, supposedly had all the potential that our whole universe was ever going to have, and then after a brief lull, boom, it expanded out into the first generation of stars and the way our universe basically looks right now, even with the threads of dark matter and dark energy coming out as well, which we will cover at a later time. All right. That is still page 5. That was just the second paragraph. Let's keep going. As the torus of our universe expanded over and over and over again since time began, echoes of the universal unit of consciousness attached themselves to the particles streaming out of the Big Bang. In Sanskrit, the smallest material quanta are called avidya, and these are called anu, and collectively they are called Maya, or creation. Avidya is Sanskrit for loss of consciousness or delusion. and it is a necessary byproduct of material instantiation, as each individualized point of view in time and space replaces universalized, non-localized awareness. Big words again. What does that all mean? Okay, let's imagine this is the mind of God, as absurd as that may seem. Let's just imagine it, though. And imagine that it has all of the knowledge and consciousness and math and chemistry and little dogs and cats, and everybody is already imagined in the mind of God from the get-go, from before the Big Bang. It pushes around the consciousness, it explodes into our now time and space universe. It combines energy, that is joy, with organization, that's the shape of the algorithm, so to speak. And each of these little guys now coming into our universe, particles or subparticles just above, what's that smallest level of math called? I forget. Anyway, I'll get back to it. These little guys are what in Sanskrit are called anu, what we would call atoms, molecular theory, the first idea of that creation isn't just a big schmear, but is made up of little small things. The Greeks had that also from the beginning. Oh, okay, the other thing I want to mention is that if this is the mind of God, and God knew everything, what happens to God when God individualizes, differentiates, and becomes individual little units of consciousness flooding out of the Big Bang and becoming elements and particles and photons and molecules and then on up the chain of aggregation? Is it still infinitely potential? No. It has localized and become a singular anu coming out. So while it has the full algorithm, because it's a full fractal of the mind of God, it's localized in time and space. It's no longer the entire universe smeared over the entire outside of our great space. It is one single little tiny point of view. Just like I am one point of view standing here looking at the camera, you are one point of view looking at your screen. Over there, that's a different point of view looking this way. See, everything has its localized point of view, and it can only be in one place in our time and space localized universe, because it got pushed out of the great mind of God and now has become one of the 10,000 things, as they call it in the Tao Te Ching. Still on page 5, if you're with me. So that's what it means by having universal consciousness, now localized and individualized points of view in time and space. Chit and Ananda undergo enormous compression as they pass through the newly formed singularity and enter into our dimension. Particles continue to rush into our universe from the zero-point field at the center, exploding outward, filling our universe from the middle into ever-expanding space. You know how they say the universe is expanding? It's because I think that the single-point field at the middle is still pushing it out. I think we're still pushing it out. That is why we're still expanding. The outer fractal membrane presses inward to contain the outwardly expanding energy and space. Matter flows outward from the middle, repulsed by the energy streaming into the universe from the center, while coherence presses inward from the outer boundary. So you've got explosion from the middle, joy exploding outward, pushing out particles. You've got containment and coherence and the complete algorithm, the correcting algorithm, on the outside holding us in, containing us so we don't just shoot off into infinite space. Because remember, it's holding space and time away from the unsullied metaverse. Which, by the way, has always been a big philosophical conundrum. I think we have solved that here with the simple explanation. How can form rest inside formlessness without touching it. It's the fractal border. So we experience the repulsive energy as joy and excitation, and the containing energy we humans call love and security. So think of love and security holding tight, coherence, and excitation and joy exploding from the middle. Last paragraph. This is the point of creation when the universal unit of consciousness is traditionally referred to by such names as God the Creator, Shakti, De, and the Mother of 10,000 Things. Because now you see, it's no longer potential, it's creation, and this is why it is now the creative phase of God. And on this page is a diagram showing the Anu, the joy, and whatnot exploding out from here and now. And that was page 5.